Can the Jays give us October dreams? Could they actually see a postseason where the Jays win the World Series once again and return the glory? Let's discuss it next. So the Jays are back in the postseason, and it hasn't been that long since they've been back. Some people are making it sound like they've been gone for decades. It's only a few years since they've been out of it. We'll get more about that later on. But I wanted to, discuss a little bit. I didn't want to do this podcast before I found out who they'll play. And now we know they're going to play the Yankees. And that's going to be a whole element to itself, and we'll get into that as well, too. But I just think overall discussing, I want to first start off talking about Toronto, the Blue Jays as a team and what they mean for the city, but mostly for what they mean for the country. As you see here, I'm wearing some, local talent here with the T-Dot shirt. I would say this about the Blue Jays. They're the one team in Canada that actually is truly Canada's team. And what I mean by that is that all due respect the Raptors. You know me, I'm a big Raptors fan. I love the scrappy Raps. I got no problem with that in this case. But I think they've made inroads with the championship as the Raptors, being a national brand, a national team, when it comes to sports. They've made inroads. But when I see the Raptors, quite honestly, the Raptors feel like the city's team. If you want to know who's Toronto's team city-wise in my mind, I think it's blue and white. Based on just me as a Torontonian, or at least now living just outside Toronto, but you know what I mean. And living here for all my life and seeing how the community's grown with the different sports teams, seeing what the youth is into and what they gravitate towards, and how they view it, and how we as a city view it, and which teams kind of represent the entire city. And when you say Toronto, what does it feel like? And I know that's an intangible type of criteria, but the Raptors speak to that. But when we broaden it out past Toronto, or even past Ontario, let's put it this way: I put the city's team as the Raptors. I put the province's team, that's the blue and white. It doesn't matter if you go all the way, Sault Ste. Marie, my buddy's a Red Wings fan, so they got a bit of split contingent up there. But for the most part, you go up to Northern Ontario, all the way back down here to the Horseshoe Valley area. Like, it doesn't matter where it is in Ontario, the blue and white, that's I consider that to be Ontario's team. With all due respect to the Senators, the blue and white is the team in this province. And then when we get national, this is where the Blue Jays really, their worth comes into play. The Blue Jays are definitely the country's team. And, and that's obvious due to their success, back in the 90s and even the 80s, to be fair. And I think also, too, the fact that they were the only, and I know this might be cringeworthy to say so, I'm not trying to put it in any sort of disrespectful way, but there's we always used to refer to as the big four, MLB, NFL, NHL, NBA. The NHL was the fourth of the big four, let's put it that way. And I don't, obviously with the amount of Canadian teams, they didn't make the Leafs that special, because we had like 6, sometimes 7 Canadian teams, I believe. I think up to 7. We might have up to 7. No, we have to think up to 6 now, or 6 or 7. Don't quote me, folks. Just going through my head, off the top of my head, I think we have 7 right now. Yes, because I keep forgetting. Yeah, old Quebec City isn't in there yet. But going back to the Blue Jays, I think the Blue Jays are the national team for the various reasons that, listen, there was only 2 teams for a long time in Major League Baseball. And obviously, the Expos had their moments of winning, or potentially winning, in the late 70s and the early 80s. And then obviously they had the big run in this case here when the strike happened, and obviously we lost the Expos. On a side note, I think they're going to come back someday, guys. I really do. ELB, I think, will return. But that's for another discussion, another day, if it does happen. But I think the Blue Jays, coming on board, in the mid 70s or late 70s, in 77, and moving, getting that success early on from about 82 or 83 all the way up pretty much to they won the 2 championships. They were consistently a team that's always in the playoffs, winning pennants, and then eventually breaking through with the 2 championships. And that fostered a lot of goodwill, not amongst just Toronto fans or even Ontario fans, but also Canadian fans across the country. And I think for that reason, it makes this time a little different than, say, some of the other teams that are in the postseason in other sports leagues. Because they have a special place in the sports world in Canada, and I think this is going to be a fascinating month if everything goes hopefully to plan as Blue Jay fans. So I am looking forward to seeing what that looks like. Now let's get into the details of what we're dealing with here. So the Jays will be facing off against those Bronx Bombers, the team that a lot of teams either love or love to hate, the Pinstripes. I must admit, when that series was going on, I was kind of torn because, the Red Sox have a scrappiness that made me a little concerned about what might happen because they don't seem to, that team didn't seem to give up. And there's always a bit of a burden when you're the favorite. And I think with Boston, the Jays would have been seen as the favorite. That is not the case with the Yankees. And even though the Jays do have the home field advantage, I think I just read just a few moments ago, Vegas definitely has them as the Jays as the underdog. The Yankees are the typical Yankees. And this is one of the reasons why I was a little concerned about New York. There is, both Boston and New York are tough places to play. No two ways in October. But New York is definitely something very different. A beast that I don't think Jays fans realize what they're about to deal with. Never mind the crowds are like on top of you, and it's just a different feel, how vocal they are, how intimidating that Yankees crowd can be. But the Yankees have a certain aura about them, when they're in postseason, similar to some other franchises in in other sports, Lakers, Celtics, pick who you want, maybe the Niners, Steelers to some extent, that have an aura about them when they're in the postseason that you just don't want to mess around with them too much. And I think also too with the Yankees, they have a certain type of not just the aura, but the intimidation factor, not just from the crowd, but typical good New York teams usually like to make sure that you fear them at all times. At all times. And when you look at it, they usually have very, very aggressive pitching and aggressive hitting. And what I mean by aggressive hitting, I'll go reverse. Aggressive hitting, they usually have hitters in this case here that will go yard on you. And throughout the entire lineup, there will be no, easy 3 up, 3 downs or lulls in the batting order when you deal with the Yankees. Typical great Yankee teams usually don't have that. Now, is this a great Yankees team? Some may say yay, some may say no. I think it's up there for at least modern era. It's a pretty damn good team, and I think they do check the boxes, check some of the boxes I mentioned when it comes to actually aggressiveness and being fearful of what you're dealing with at the plate. So far this year, the Jays are 8-5 against them. Throw that out the window in a short series like this, where you could pitch your best pitchers all the time, or at least as opportune times. I would say that having to deal with Judge alone is already an issue. But Stanton, he might not be the same as he used to be, but he's still a big-time postseason player, and he can take it deep whenever he has a chance. And you throw that in there with the rest of that lineup, it could cause a lot of angst for Jays fans. I must admit, I am not looking forward to those innings when those two are coming up in the order. Especially when you get that short porch out in Yankee Stadium. Hey, that short porch is also a psychological element that you always have to be wary of when you play New York. On the other side of things, when it comes to their pitching, as I said before, the kid is just, the rookie just, I won't even try to pronounce his name, Cam, I'll just say in this case here before I say the wrong thing. But, they're throwing 11 KOs, he's throwing smoke. They got a real strong, starting pitching rotation, and they're going to be very aggressive. So I know in this case here, managerial wise, both managers leave a lot to be desired at times with their decisions on when they pull pitchers. But I think that the Yankees have a very much a cause for concern with the Yankees. On the Blue Jays side of things, Gausman will get the first, will get the ball in game 1. I guess game time decisions on some of the rest of the rotation. We'll see if Max even gets a start or not in this series. But they got some options in this case, and I think the Jays pitchers, they can't be intimidated. I think they have to go after the Yankees. They have to make sure they force some respect by the Yankees hitters, because if they don't, then it's going to be a very short series. On the other side, though, like when it's all said and done, the Jays, this whole postseason is in my mind. And so it's unfair because usually you see this more in a basketball sense where one player can dominate so much, or a quarterback in football, and then to some extent, a top sniper, a scorer, even a goalkeeper in hockey, a goaltender in hockey. I think one of the things, but in this case, I think does really come down to one singular figure, and that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He has to deliver. Plain and simple. And it's not just the compensation what he's getting after this big contract he's got. That's understandable. Because believe me, whatever money he was going to make, he still had to deliver. It's the fact that he is, everyone comes to these games and these matchups, wherever the sport is, the NBA, WNBA, football, baseball, hockey, and they always talk about, the strategies of this foot and this, that, and the strategies of this side and this side of the ball and what this coach is going to do. And a lot of times, that's fine and good, but a lot of times it comes down to, are my best going to be better than your best? That's really what comes down to in postseason play. And trust me, my National League team's the Pirates, so I know what I'm talking about when I say so. Believe me, sitting there and watching the Killer Bees in the 90s, in this case here, pretty much go silent. They weren't buzzing much in the postseason. And Vance believe me, I know what I speak of. And the same could go with some of the Blue Jays teams in the 80s. And it goes here as well, too. In this new iteration of the Jays and this new core, I'll just say this. Now, I think, Bo is like 273 batting average in 6 games in the postseason. Had a couple ribbies and stuff like that. Nothing special to talk about. And I'm not saying that's a whole other discussion if actually will Bichette play or not. It'll be great if he's able to play, because I think they need, you need as many of your talented stars to be on the field as possible in this type of situation. But going back to Vlad, 6 games in the postseason, man, a .136 batting average, one RBI, 1 run. That's not going to get it done, man. That's not going to get it done. And he needs to really show out. And I think what he's done this year, I know people are on about how many home runs he hit or lack of home runs he's hit this year. I do think he was trying to respect, each at bat a little bit more. It wasn't a swing and a miss. He was trying to kind of really work the count a bit better. And I think that might pay dividends in the postseason for him. So, where he's being a little more judicious at times. And we'll see. We'll find out, when this recording goes out, we'll only be a few hours before game time. So, we'll see. How it looks for him, but to me, it comes down to him. If he's able to play like the way we've seen him play throughout his career in the regular season for the Jays, then the Jays actually have a real shot to do some real damage in October. But if not, this could be a quick outing, folks. A quick outing. So, do I think the Jays can win this series? Yes. Do I think it's going to be nerve-wracking? Hell yes. And, there's been a great Jays moments. Postseason baseball is always fascinating. Here's one thing to watch, too, in this series. And a real big advantage for the Blue Jays. The Yankees, man, they don't respect the ball, man. They really don't. Their defense is atrocious. It cost them a World Series last year. They thought they could get away with it. And then when they played the Dodgers, they realized, oh, snap, yeah, we might actually have to play defense and not kick around the ball all over the diamond. And this year hasn't been much different for them. And I think it will come back. Defense, as they always say, defense wins championship, folks. And in baseball, it means really good pitching, and your defense got to be solid, especially up the middle. And the Yankees have shown that they think that, hey, man, we'll just hit ourselves out of any trouble. And that when you meet the right team, That ain't gonna be the case, guys. So we'll see what they have to do. I'll also say this from the Jays side. Let me tell you something. Jays management, I'm gonna say it right now. Do not come to me with any sort of analytics BS that if a pitcher's got it going, all of a sudden you take him out. I don't want to see that nonsense happen a couple years ago in that wild card game. I don't want to see it. That's all I got to say. If you have a man moving and he's grooving the corners, do not say, you know what? Well, you know what? On my sheet, it says in this case here, if you pitched, in this case, 94 pitches, which is more than enough in this case at this point. Nah, dude, it's the postseason. They're supposed to, this is the reason why you saved them all year for this point. Man, do I miss the days of David Coe and Jack Morris. Lord, my goodness, man. I mean, these guys make these pitchers so soft. Like Sharman. Oh, my gosh. You got the pitch count at X amount. You can only pitch 6.5 or 6 2/3. We got to pull him out because the machine told us to do so. Like, my gosh, man. I mean, Jack Morris must be rolling in his grave. That's a joke, folks, in this case here. Okay, but guys like him, Blackjack McDowell, David Cone, you pick it in this case the dude, man. But Andy Pettit, like dudes that just say Jimmy Key, guys that just say, yo, how much innings you need from me? I get it done, boys. I'll get it done. I mean, just go down the list, man. Like, give me a break with the, Dave Stewart. Like, give me a break with all the whining. Like, oh, geez, I don't know. How much pitches in this. It's ridiculous, man. Get some kahunas here, managers, man, and let the guys pitch, man. That's what they're paid to do. That's what you have them for these moments. Anyways, man, that's enough of my rant there on pitching decisions. Because believe me, I know there's going to be a few moments in this series where I'm going to be scratching my head wondering, like, what the heck are we doing? Anyways, guys, that's all I got to say for now. Enjoy the postseason. It's a great time of year. Football's back and running. NBA's around the corner. We got postseasons happening all over the place, be it for the Major League Baseball, the Fall Classic, and of course WNBA stuff that's kicking off as well too. So a lot, you just hit the Ryder Cup, which I did get into, but believe me, who knows? Maybe I'll do a quick little short about that sometime. But anyways, yeah, guys. Once again, you know where to find me on my social media platforms. That's Blue Sky, that thing called X, and of course, Facebook, and right here on YouTube. And this is where you also can like and subscribe. And also, place any comments down below. Maybe you think differently. Maybe you think it's going to be a sweep. Or maybe in this case, you think the Jays are in real trouble. Tell me what you think about what the outlook looks like for the boys in blue, the good guys. I'll leave it there, guys. Thank you once again. Keep it locked. Peace.